What's up, Peace Nick Battle, aka NinosCorner, man? We got a lot to talk about today. I know I didn't get back with you guys after the bowl win when Texas won 55-23 against Colorado, but so much has happened since then, and so I wanted to group everything together, guys. But we got some very important things that actually happened this week. Tom Herman got fired as the Texas head coach, right? And same day, next day, Texas goes out and hires Steve Sarkisian, who's the offensive coordinator for Alabama. What does this mean for Texas? This means Texas gets a bona fide offensive guru who's basically led Alabama, who has been one of the best teams when it comes to defense in the country since Nick Saban has been there since 2007. Now Sark's there, and they have their two best offensive seasons that they ever had in the history of Alabama. Now a lot can do with that, right? Is it the players? Is it the coaches? Is it just Saban? I mean, it's a little bit of both, right? They always say it's not about the X's and O's, it's about the Jimmys and Joes, and I want to get into that. Sark is one hell of a recruiter. So he's able to get that offensive talent to come in, and he's able to mold that talent and do what he does. I mean, if you go back and check this guy's his track list when it comes to the quarterbacks that he's helped mold. You got Carson Palmer, you got Matt Leinart, you got Mark Sanchez, you got Tua, you got Locker that came from Washington. I mean, he has basically a tree of quarterbacks that he has helped mold. Mac Jones is going to be a draft pick this year, and he's a Heisman candidate. Also, on the offensive side of the ball, you got his wide receivers that are on his team. This guy has three guys on his offensive team basically that are going to go to the Heisman finalists. Well, actually two that are finalists, but three that finished in the top 10 with Najee Harris, our running back, with Mac Jones at the actual quarterback position, and with Smith, who is probably going to end up winning the award. So he has that, just on his jacket, on his resume. One thing I can say about him also is, like I say, guys, the guy's offensive mind, he is just a genius with it. And he calls plays from the sidelines. Let's just think about that for a minute. One thing that Tom Herman didn't do. Tom Herman is supposedly, air quotes, an offensive juggernaut. And when he came to Texas, I think everybody thought that Tom Herman was going to call plays at Texas, right? But instead he didn't. He ended up hiring a guy named Tim Beck, who ran the offense, and it was a horrible offense. He takes the reins from Tim Beck, but stated in his first two or three press conferences that he doesn't like to call plays from the sidelines, and he doesn't know how coaches do it. And I was amazed at that, because this guy is supposed to be an offensive guru. You got a guy like Lincoln Riley who calls plays from the sidelines. Sark down at Alabama calls plays from the sidelines. So your great offensive minds are guys who know how to call plays, whether they're in the booth or on the sideline. And so that's what I thought Texas was getting when we got Tom Herman, and we didn't get that. All right, so Tom Herman is fired. What do I think about the move? To be honest with you, I thought Tom Herman was going to get one more season. The team went 7-3. They were going to be 8-3 if they would have played Kansas. So when you start to look at that, and you got a guy who scores 69 points against Kansas State, blew them out, scores 55 points in the bowl game, blows out Colorado, and basically missing all of his team captains up until the start of the game. He only had one team captain, and that was Sam Ehlinger. At halftime, he had no captains left in the team because Sam Ehlinger was hurt. And then you have a guy like Casey Thompson step in and do his thing. Now, I thought Tom Herman was going to get one more year and have 5 years to see this through. The Texas brass, the big money donors are like, hell no, we want him out of here. And that is because Tom Herman has not rubbed people the right way. As a Longhorn faithful, as a graduate, hook them all day long. As a graduate, hook them. Just from this college, we know what football means to this school. Football is everything when it comes to Texas, right? When you look at the NFL, you look at like a third of the starting quarterbacks come from Texas. They have Texas high school pedigree. Right? All these starting quarterbacks are in college football. They're like Texas guys. When you look around the country and you start to see like you had Jalen Hurts, who's a Texas guy who went to play at Bama. When you start to go down the list, there's just so many guys who have Texas blood running through them who never stepped foot on campus at Texas to play quarterback. And we thought Tom Herman was going to be the guy that was going to bring that talent back. You can even go back to guys like Matthew Stafford, who went to Georgia. I mean, Texas is right there. You got guys like Andrew Luck, who ended up going to Stanford. Texas is right there. Now, we know about the Andrew Luck story with Garrett Gilbert, and they were both number one, number two player in the country. And Texas went with Garrett Gilbert. Wrong analysis. They should have went with Andrew Luck, hindsight 2020, right? But when you start to look at the league and see all these guys that played high school football in Texas, and Texas has not been able to get any of that talent, that's a problem. And we thought that we were going to be able to get that talent once Tom Herman came, because he was a guy who was able to take 3 different quarterbacks in one playoff and go win a championship with Ohio State. Now, Sark is a whole different animal. Now, we all know that he had some problems when he was at Washington and USC, but I saw his press conference for Texas through his Zoom call, and it seems like he has changed his life. He has done, just a complete 180, and basically, he talked about his sponsor. And if anybody knows anybody who, has had problems with alcohol or drugs, that a sponsor is somebody that you call, like, either on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, right? And that's the person who kind of keeps you straight. And he talked about that. He was like an open book with that. He even said that he was too young for the jobs. Like, like the moment was just a little bit too big for him at that point. He was just 33 years old, guys, when he got hired at Washington. 36 or 37, if I'm not mistaken, when he got hired to go, coach at USC. So a young head coach had some of these thriving programs, especially USC. And so maybe the pressure got to him. But, even with the pressure getting to him, he leaves, becomes an analyst. He is humble enough to become an analyst at Alabama, right? When you're a guy who's making 30 grand a year, I don't care how much money he made in the past, it's still a lot of pride goes into that decision. Where he became an analyst and basically didn't do any offensive play calling, nothing. He just helped the offensive coordinator, and at that time, that was Lane Kiffin. So he helps Lane Kiffin, for, I guess, a year or two. Lane ends up taking the job at FAU, and Steve Sarkisian gets bumped up to be the offensive coordinator, if I'm not mistaken, during the national championship game, and he handled himself well. I mean, it was a game for the ages. It was just that the opposing team, which was Clemson at the time, they just outdueled them, and they got the number 1 pick in the draft this year in Trevor Lawrence, who kind of, just fueled that. So he goes there, leaves there for a year, goes to Atlanta to be the OC there. That was a train wreck, but even with it being a train wreck, just because of the team, not because of Sark, Matt Ryan put up his second best stats of his entire career, like under Sark. So he leaves there. Nick Saban calls him, come back to Bama, come back to Bama. And he comes back to Bama for 2 years, right? And Bama basically had their top 2 offensive, years underneath Sark. And he's just an offensive wizard and an offensive genius. And I'm glad that Texas made this move because, Texas went after Urban Meyer. We all know that. They went after Urban Meyer. They didn't get Urban. Urban told him no. And so now it's what's next? What's plan B? And plan B might have been Matt Campbell. It might have been Cristobal. It might have been whoever. But I'm glad we got Sark because when you start to look at everything that's happening, I love Matt Campbell as a coach. But I don't think he is the recruiting rainmaker that we need here at Texas. I don't know if Matt Campbell was going to be that guy that was going to electrify the base here at the school, electrify those kids in those Texas, high schools, electrify those kids in those California, high schools, and those Florida and those Georgia high schools to bring that talent back to Texas. I don't know if he could do it. Cristobal's a hell of a recruiter, but Cristobal just got tore up by Matt Campbell in the Fiesta Bowl. Right. So, yeah, neither one were the right hire at Texas. Matt Campbell might have been if he could have assembled a team around him. But the problem with those guys who are head coaches is they're head coaches at schools that are not Texas. And so when you are a head coach at a school, you want to bring your homeboys that you hired at Iowa State or at Oregon, where the pressure is not the same at Texas. You bring your homeboys to Texas because they were successful there. It's a different animal when it comes down to Texas. You got donors to deal with, right? You got to be a CEO, basically. You got so much more you got to worry about than just coaching. Matt Campbell can coach at Iowa State and nothing else. You don't have to worry about anything else. At Texas, you got to do so much more We have a freaking channel, guys. We got the Longhorn Network for, just for crying out loud. So he couldn't hide behind just coaching. He would have to do so much more. And the comments he makes about, I don't have 5-star players, but we got a 5-star culture. Hey, you can't sell that when you're the head coach. You should want to have 5-star players. I mean, I love the comment with him coaching at Iowa State, but you should want to have 5-star players. You want to say, hey, we don't have a 5-star player, we got a 5-star coach, but I want those 5-star players. And that's not what he has. And he doesn't have the chops to do that at Iowa State. To get 5-star players and high 4-star guys on a continual basis, you have to be at a big time school. You got to be at a school that has the resources, a school that's going to get you there to the top. So Texas, if Texas wins the Big 12 every year, guess what's going to happen? They're going to be in contention to be in the college football playoffs, just like Oklahoma, right? So what do we do here, guys? We get Sark. And what does Sark do? He's a rainmaker at recruiting. And some of these guys that he's talking about bringing in with him, just some of the rumors that have been floated around through sites like Orange Bloods and IT, which is Inside Texas, and 247 and like all these sites. He's going to bring some bona fide rainmakers here as recruiters. If these guys are the ones who are going to come with him to this coaching tenure here at Texas. And I pray that he's here for a long time if he's successful. So when you look at Sark, he has took a team at Washington, when it comes to the recruiting side of the house, folks. He has taken a team like Washington, who finished, 75 or 79 in the top ranks when it comes to recruiting, the year prior to him getting there. The year he gets there, that was the year he got there. So that was like his transition class. The next year, they were like in the top, 28 in the country. So he moved the recruiting needle 50 spots in his first year. Then he gets him in the teens by the time he leaves there. Mind you, think about this, guys. Washington was 0-12 the year before he got there. The next year, I think they win 5 games. And then like the years after that, he goes like 7-6, 7-6, 7-6. That last year, he wins like 9 games or 8 games. And then he goes to USC. And he was, if I'm not mistaken, 12-6 at USC over 2 years. But when he left USC, he had the #1 class in the country. This guy can recruit, so he knows how to recruit the West Coast. And I think with the excitement that's going to be around him coming to Texas, he's going to recruit Texas well. And he still has his connects down in California, especially Mater Dei High School, I think where his son goes to school. So, he's picked up a bunch of recruits there. This is going to be very interesting. This is where I think Texas is going to be in a position right now to go out and get the best talent out there no matter what. It's not just taking the top 10 or 15 players from the state of Texas like Mac did. Mac did something that we've never seen before in this state, and it's probably never going to be done again. Mac Brown, guys, would go, and I was at school during this time. So I know some of the football players from those years. I was there from 01 to 05, and I actually know like a bunch of those guys. And Mac would go in the state of Texas and say, the top 25 guys, I'm taking the top 20 and leave and be done recruiting by spring. Like, didn't even have to recruit in the summer or the fall to even keep recruits. They wanted to come to Texas. He kept Texas talent here. That'll probably never be done again, guys. Mac closed the borders. When Texas A&M left to go to the SEC, kind of opened up the borders a little bit more. Then you got, schools like Alabama coming in and poaching talent. And Ohio State and Florida and Georgia, everybody's poaching talent. Stanford on the West Coast. It gave free reins for everybody to come into the state and poach talent. Now, I'm not just blaming that on all the other schools. I'm blaming it on Texas too, because Texas wasn't good enough to keep that talent here in Texas. But now I got a feeling, guys, that the offense that Sarkisian is going to run is going to be so attractive to these kids here in Texas that it's going to be amazing. And I can't wait to see it. Texas has talent, guys. I just saw a stat. If I'm not mistaken, Texas has the fourth most ESPN 300 people on their team right now from the past 5 years of recruiting in the country. Those other 4 teams, guys, are Alabama. I think they had like 98. Who's next? I think Georgia had like 84. I think Ohio State had like 65 or 70, somewhere around there. I think Clemson had 63 and Texas had 65 or something like that. So Out of those 5 teams, 4 of those teams have been to the college football playoffs. One has not, and that one is Texas. It's because we haven't developed our talent, because the coaches that we've had here over the last decade have not been able to develop that talent the way that we need it. And so that's why I'm hoping that Sark can come in here and bring in his guys that he feels comfortable with, so that they can develop this Texas talent and do their damn thing. And now we're going to take a small commercial break, and we're going to talk about some of those guys that Sark is planning on bringing in, and just seeing exactly what they can do here at this school on the other end, guys. All right, guys, and we're back. So we just got off that beautiful commercial break. Now we're going to talk about the staff that people are thinking. It's not set in stone, guys, but people are thinking Sark's going to bring here to Texas. And the 3 main guys on the offensive side of the ball is going to be A.J. Milwee, who is like his right-hand man. He's like a analyst right now at Alabama. And so he'll probably be like the QB coach, the guy who's going to, just run the day-to-day operations when it comes to the offense for Sark. Mind you, Sark's going to be the one calling these plays, guys. Cal Floyd is the next guy. Cal Flood is the next guy, who is the offensive line coach at Alabama. Ding, ding, ding. We need offensive linemen, guys. We need to develop offensive linemen. We need to be able to get offensive linemen here that are 5-star studs. This guy has produced a ton of offensive linemen. He's a hell of a recruiter. The recruits love him. If you can get the Alabama offensive line coach to come to Texas, and you can sell that, hey, I put these guys in the league from Bama, I'm doing the same thing here in Texas. You don't have to go to the SEC, or you don't have to go down to Alabama. You're from Houston, you're from Dallas, you're from Austin. You don't have to go 900 miles away from home to go play football. You can play football right here and have your mom and dad come see you every weekend. What a joy that is, right? So Cal Flood, if they can get Flood to be the OL, well, the offensive line coach, maybe like a OC, like a slight raise for him once it comes to Texas, that'd be amazing. Next guy, Banks, Jeff Banks, the tight end coach, special teams coordinator for Alabama. He's a recruiting rainmaker in the state of Texas. He is a recruiting rainmaker. Those kids that are Texas guys that go to Alabama, Jeff Banks has all those contacts. They love him. They absolutely love him. So if Texas can get that guy, you're talking about an opportunity to have the recruiting rainmakers of rainmakers to come here on that offensive side of the ball. It's going to be really, really interesting, really amazing. Another name that has been floated around is the Alabama wide receiver coach. I think it's Higgins or Wiggins. But anyway, it's Higgins if I'm not mistaken. Let me check, guys. Give me a second. I know I shouldn't be doing research on the phone, like during the podcast, but I am going to do it right now. But if I'm not mistaken, his name is Higgins. But he is one hell of a guy when it comes to cultivating talent, and we can say that right now because his guys over the past couple years, you're looking at Devontae Smith, who is going to win the Heisman this year. Waddle's going to be a first-round pick. Ruggs was a first-round pick last year. Jerry Jeudy was a first-round pick. I mean, he can walk into he can walk into a wide receiver house and basically say, I'm going to get you to the league and look at my track record. Yeah, my last guy, he won the Heisman Trophy. That's what he can do. So I like what Sark's doing on the offensive side of the ball as far as coordinators. Now, will Nick Saban let this happen? That's the next thing. I don't know if he has a choice. If the guys want to come, they're going to come. Nick Saban doesn't care, guys. He churns through them. It is what it is, man. That's a sign of a good organization, sign of a good coach. I'm in the military, so I always tell folks that the sign of a good organization is when you have people that are getting in the program, they're learning, they're growing, they're being groomed, and then they go, right? And go means they go get a better job, or they go get something that's going to pay them more money, but we've prepared them to do that. And then guess what? We hire somebody in that is just as good, or somebody who is going to be that next guy and has the potential to be just as good as the person who left. It's basically saying that A+ teams and A+ people hire A+ folks because they want to keep themselves being A+. And people who are A+ people understand that you can't be A+ by yourself, all right? It's those B+ guys, it's those Bs, it's those C+ guys who always hire somebody that is a lower grade than them because they're afraid that person's going to take their job, right? can't happen. You got to throw all this stuff out the window when you're a coach at a big time school like Texas. And of course, you're probably going to get paid, I don't know, $6 million a year. It needs to happen soon. Texas, we're very impatient fans. We're a very impatient fan base. We want to win. We want to win now. So on the offensive side of the ball, I think Sark's going to have this sewed up. Not really worried about the offensive side of the ball. The defensive side of the ball is where I want to know what's going to happen, guys. So all the rumors were saying that Will Muschamp was going to come back. Will Muschamp, I guess, turned him down, so he's not coming back to Texas. Does Sark keep Chris Ash, or does he go in a whole different direction? I like Chris Ash. I think he is one hell of a DC. I think that'd be an amazing, thing just to keep him around, just for the continuity side of the ball. These kids have gone through coordinators for quite some time now. They had Todd Orlando. Prior to him, they had Vance Bedford. So Vance Bedford was a DC for 3 years, and the defense really regressed in this, like halfway through his second year and his whole third year. So Charlie took over. Charlie Strong took over all the play calling on defense. Charlie gets fired. Tom Herman comes in, who I think was a B or B plus hire, and he brings a C plus staff with him, a C plus staff. And I'm not saying Todd Orlando's a bad DC. I'm just saying that he wasn't Texas ready yet. Maybe eventually. He just, at the time, he wasn't Texas ready. He had a good first season, but when teams figured out his defense, he was not able to adjust and become a championship quality defense coordinator. So what happens? Those kids have T.O., which is Todd Orlando. He gets fired. And now we got Chris Ash that comes in, who I think is an amazing defensive coordinator. The team has gotten better every week. The team is tackled better every week. And I think just for the purposes of continuity, I think it'd be an awesome thing to keep Chris Ash on board. But it's Sark's team. He has to hire people that he's comfortable with. Oscar Giles, I like him as a defensive line coach. I wish he was more of a recruiting rainmaker. We need some guys who can just go in houses and recruit. I don't know if Oscar Giles is the guy who likes to recruit, but I can't knock it. I can't knock what he's done on the on the defensive line. He's brought in some good guys. You got Coburn, who I think is going to be a first-team all Big 12 guy next year, potential All-American. You got guys like Ojimo. Ojimo is nice. You had to go get a guy like Taquan Graham, who is really good at the defensive tackle position. In Todd Orlando's scheme, we had him playing as a defensive end. That wasn't his natural position. Once we swapped it at 4-3, you really got to see the greatness, how good Taquan Graham could be. And I think that's Oscar Giles and team molding these guys into doing what they're supposed to do. And one thing that I can say about Oscar Giles, honestly, I'm going to take this back. It's kind of a miracle for him to get some of these guys to recruit, like to come to Texas. And these guys are mainly 4-3 guys, and he was able to sell them on playing in a 3-4 when T.O. was here. So when the 4-3 gets implemented with Chris Ash, and we got, the 4 down linemen, you got Joseph Osai. You better get Joseph Osai here. So you got Joseph Osai here. You got Coburn here. He got Taquan Graham here. He got Alfred Collins here. He got Vernon Broughton here. He brought some war daddies here. I got to give him his props. Now that I think about it, I got to give Oscar Giles his props. He's brought some war daddies here, man. But the thing is that I don't know. I gotta reserve, my take on Oscar Giles. I like Oscar Giles, guys. I just don't think he's going to be retained because I got a feeling that Sark's going to bring in his guys. And I think one of the guys he was talking about bringing in, guys, hold on, let me get this guy's name. He is the defensive coordinator now for Arkansas, and I can't remember his name right now. But he was the head coach, if I'm not mistaken, for Missouri for a little bit of time. Left there, and now he is... What is the guy's name? I can't think of his name. I can't think of his name at all. Barry Odom. That's it, Barry Odom. So Barry Odom is supposed to be a guy who is pretty click tight with Sark, and so it would be a fit that Sark would like and feel comfortable with. Now, the only thing about Barry Odom is there are multiple teams that are going to probably want his services, and those teams are, of course, Texas, and I think LSU is like another team that wants his services. But just for continuity purpose, I would love to see Chris Ash stay. Like I said, the team has gotten better. He's been able to make the right personnel decisions. Moving down over Sean from safety to linebacker was a game changer. Playing a guy like Jalen Ford, in the bowl game as a true freshman to get him some reps. He's turned out to be a really good player. We got to see him play. Even guys like Mitchell, he's playing well. The defensive line, even without Joseph Asai, played really well. We got studs in that line, like Alfred Collins is going to be a household name. He just is. He's going to be a household name. He played that defensive tackle position like none other. It looked like we didn't skip a beat when Taquan Graham left. We didn't skip a beat at all. And so it's going to be interesting to see the team that is assembled by Sark. I am very ecstatic to see what's going to happen. I think this was a needed change. This was necessary. Texas had kind of lost faith. Well, not kind of. Texas lost faith in Tom Herman. Just some of the antics that he's pulled over the years. Flipping off the network screen. Like giving like the double bird, and they took a picture of it. What else did he do? He was mocking Drew Lock from Missouri when they played in the bowl game. That's something that a coach shouldn't do. You would never catch, a seasoned coach doing some stuff like that. The fighting antics with Gundy at Okie State. Man, just losing to Maryland twice. I mean, 1-4 against, was it 1-4? Yeah. 1-4 against Oklahoma. Gary Patterson owning you, eating your bacon every year. Matt Campbell just saying, hold my beer, you know what? You ain't nothing. You got 5 stars. I got a 5-star culture. I mean, he has been abused, basically. Mind you, he does have a 7-3 record. He's 4-0 in bowl games, guys, so we can't say too much bad things about Herman and when it comes to the play on the field. But what I can say is the player development hasn't been there. Texas has continuously had players who have been undrafted free agents who have made teams in the NFL. So what's that tell me, guys? It tells me that these players weren't developed enough to get drafted. These guys are starting on teams. They were undrafted free agents. Malcolm Roach is a starter for the New Orleans Saints. He was undrafted. Poona Ford, who balled out, is a starter and has been starting since his rookie season for the Seahawks. I mean, you got guys like that. Holden Hill, and I know he had problems. He had other problems, but he was undrafted. For a reason. But Tom Herman, it's almost like he didn't understand the talent that he had in this team and where to put it. The whole offensive line issue. So worried about the offensive line issue and what was going to happen post Cosme, maybe Kerstetter being out. I think he's going to probably come back after the injury. Just losing a bunch of folks on the line. But it looks like Cosme Kerstetter should have never been playing center. Kerstetter, he should have probably still been playing right tackle. Cosme at the left tackle. Jake Majors, this freshman, has been the bomb these last 2 games at center, man. This kid should have been playing at least since game 3. Just get his feet wet. Let him play. Tyler Johnson played really well at the right guard position. And at the left guard, Angelou didn't play bad either this year. So it's understanding that talent is there. And it's like we never saw this talent together on the field. And it's like Tom is a guy who stuck with his homeboys. His homeboys are the players that he likes, like Cade Brewer. I like Cade Brewer, but I like Jared Wiley better. And my stats, my NCN, which is the NinosCorner number, shows that Jared Wiley was a much more productive tight end when he's in the game than Cade Brewer. Another thing, not running the ball with Bijan Robinson more than 8 to 10 times a game. He's a workhorse. He's a 5-star player for a reason. When Alabama, when Clemson, when Ohio State gets 5-star guys, they play them. That's what you're supposed to do. They're football players, all right? So one thing I think that Sark is going to do is he is going to run Bijan 15 to 20 times a game. And it's going to happen. And he's going to do well. Bijan's going to be a beast. He already is a beast. Bijan could have easily had 350 to 400 yards against Colorado if the ball would have been in his hands. So not playing guys like that. Jordan Whittington should get the ball a lot more than what he did. Jake Smith should get the ball a lot more than what he did. Brennan Eagles should get the ball a lot more than what he did. He's going to the NFL now, mainly probably because he didn't get the ball like he wanted to. All right? These are guys that are playmakers that should get the ball. I love Sam Ehlinger. One of my favorite players of all time to watch when it comes to seeing Texas football. But sometimes I think Tom Herman catered a little bit too much to Sam. And deservingly so. Sam is a guy who I have him as a top 3 or 4 quarterback to ever grace the land here at Texas at this school. You know, I think Vince is the greatest all time here at Texas. I think Colt is second, and after Colt, I think it's Sam. You know, a lot of people might say it's Street, or it might be Bobby Lane. You know, could be Major. Just my personal opinion. I think it's Vince, Colt, then Sam, and I think Sam's talent wasn't developed here like it should have been. We didn't see the best of Sam because the best offensive plan wasn't put around Sam. And that's frustrating. And I don't think we're going to have that problem when we have Sark on this team next year. Now, one more thing about Sark, and I'm going to go. It's going to be a great matchups, guys, in the rivalry game against OU at the Cotton Bowl. It's going to be amazing. Both of these coaches calling plays in the sideline. It's going to be a chess match, and I can't wait to see it. I think we finally got us a coach who we know can sit in the sideline and call plays and go tit for tat with anybody in the country when it comes to calling plays. And I'm excited about it. I know you guys are excited about it too. Hook them all day long. But you guys know how I end all these. I end them on a do you message. You see, do you in the head too. Don't be afraid to fail. Outgrow your environment. Understand your brilliance, man. Everybody's great at something. Find out what you're great at. Do it. Be passionate about it. And go make it happen. On that note, guys, man, NinosCorner, I'm out. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe, people. Like and subscribe. Man, love you guys. NinosCorner out. Hook 'em.